Hello and welcome to another episode of the Social Media Agency Stories podcast. You'd think after 20 times I'd get that right, but hey, we mess up every once in a while. But glad to be here with another episode. Real thrilled with our guest today. He's got some interesting stuff. We're going to talk about social sales stuff. So excited about that. I have some experience with that, and excited to kind of hear his experiences and how they might translate to what I've experienced. So welcome to the show, Ian Moyse. He is the Chief Revenue Officer at One Up Sales. Welcome to the show. And why don't we just kind of jump right in and tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where you're at.
Thank you very much, Jason. Yep. So simple terms, sales leader, been in the sales tech industry for many, many years, from originally being inside sales and field sales, and then leading sales teams, very hands-on, enjoy being with customers and hearing what's really going on and how the buyer dynamic has changed, which I'm sure we'll talk about based on the subject you introduced with. And enjoying the new world that we all face, where sales and the customer experience has changed, and we do a lot of video interaction and talk to them in a different manner in a different place.
Gotcha. So how did you tell me a little bit more about kind of where you started and how you kind of, gravitated towards where you're at today? What did that journey look like for you?
Sure. So I started off as a techie. I was a programmer at IBM. And in those days, I saw salespeople who had the company car, had the mobile phone, which was the size of a suitcase, but they had the perks. And I thought, well, I know what I'm talking about. So how hard can it be? Passionate about computing, but I was enthusiastic and ambitious. So I left IBM for a smaller company that was distributing Novell NetWare, if anyone remembers that. That was at one time the number one networking product on the planet. And it was a small team, and I was supporting as inside sales 3 salespeople. And the great thing was, I learned on the ground. It was the traditional pad of paper, phone, pen, price book. Off you go, figure it out as you go. Make a lot of mistakes, learn the hard way. But I learned by plagiarizing the good that I saw in the 3 salespeople I supported, and within a year was promoted to have my own patch field sales. And again, then right now I have to learn something else. How do you do this? What do I do here? How do I own my own micro business within a business, so to speak? And over the years, then worked in different parts of the sales economy, from resellers, distribution, and direct sales in a different number of technologies, and ended up about 15 years ago moving into cloud computing, which today powers an immense amount of what we all use on mobile phones, the web conferencing we're using today, the applications, and really with COVID is experiencing an explosive growth, because it's what supports us able to do what we do in a remote environment as effectively as we can. Go back 15 years, this would have been a very different working experience for many people.
Excellent. And so you're at a company called One Up now. What do you guys specialize in? What's kind of your guys' superpower? What is it that you do for clients?
Sure. So our superpower, as you put it, is gamification, is sales and motivation, enabling
Yeah.
people to give their teams more visibility of what's going on, simple view of all the data sources they've got in the business. So we pull data from CRMs, different data sources, phone systems, etc., and display it in a nice way, and then allow you to gamify it. So to gamify people to compete against themselves, for teams to compete against other teams, and for individuals, if they wish, to issue a challenge against a colleague. This week, I am going to do more calls than you. I'm going to book more new appointments and this sort of thing, and challenge each other for what the prize would be. So it's really motivational and giving managers and leaders and the business easy measurements of what's really going on, which in a remote world is particularly important. Are your workers working productively at home, and how are they comparing to each other's performance?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I haven't seen kind of a gamification of social sales, so that's kind of interesting. So have you guys developed your own platform or software that facilitates that experience? I'm kind of curious how it works.
Yeah, so it's our own tech, and what we do is we take data from third-party sources. So, for example, in the recruitment sector, they will often use proprietary recruitment platforms and CRMs. and phone systems, and we will suck the data out of their different systems and or spreadsheets. Some people are running bits of their business on data on spreadsheets. We will take the data feeds, and then once it's in our system in real time, you can then decide how's it metricized, what points do you allocate to different things, or how do you want it displayed, and how do you want to compare things. So it sounds simple, but you've got to think of complexity, such as here's a team of 10 people and here's a team of 5. You can't put them against each other equally. So we handle the metrics that will equalize those teams out. So you can put different sized teams against each other in a fair manner. But it's all about driving the correct behavior, the right activities. You want people maximizing their activity, maximizing their effort on the activity that matters, and learning from their colleagues. What's working, what's the number 1, number 2 seller in the business doing, what are the activities they're spending their time on, and it gives that transparency for the others to see that, rather than try and dig through complex data in a CRM and try and figure out, well, what they're doing. You can see it right in front of you every day, what behavior they're taking, and try and mimic.
No, I like that. Let's take a step back. I should have asked this question first. Now I know the answer to this question, but I want to get your
Sure.
influenced answer to it, for those that are listening, because we come across clients that don't have any idea what social sales means, or what that is. And so I'm going to ask you, for the purpose of folks that might be listening that maybe don't know what that is, what is social selling?
So the first thing is, social selling is the wrong name, in my opinion, having been involved with this for years, because what it implies, and often I talk to sales leaders and speak at events, etc., and people have this concept that my product couldn't sell it over social. It's not about selling your product over social. The real definition, in my view, it's using social media platforms as a way to create a real world engagement. And it's a set of methodologies. It is not product. Products support you doing this. So people often associate a direct correlation, social selling equal LinkedIn Navigator. Now, LinkedIn's done a good marketing job around that, but it's not just about LinkedIn. It's about all of the social platforms and the methodology you use to use the information that's available to you and a way to engage with someone to turn it into a real world conversation. Once you get it to a real world conversation, social selling, to most of the degree, has done its job. It's got you to the point you needed to, because as a buyer, we've all changed. As a buyer, we filter everything, right? If you get a call on your mobile, you look at the number. Who doesn't do this? Look at the number. And you're making micro judgments of, do I want to pick that up? Do I want to let someone through the gate? Do I let it go to voicemail and then decide to call them back? Is it from an area code I recognize? Is it from a number I recognize? Oh, it might. Oh, that. Nah. And we filter. We all do it. And there's technologies that enable us to filter now and do that as well on the smartphones, etc., and on landlines, and on your email and all the rest of it. So we hide behind things because I only want the conversation I want. So as a seller, often people say to me, well, does that mean I shouldn't pick up the phone? No, it doesn't. If you can pick up the phone and get hold of someone, or get hold of someone quickly, do it. But what do you do when you can't? That's where social selling comes in. What often I see leaders do is, well, keep calling them. Call them 3 times the first day, and then leave a day, and then call them once, then leave 2 days, then over the first 2 weeks, call them 15 times. Okay. Do you not think that recipient is going to recognize that number more and more, particularly if you leave a voicemail? You filter it even more, right? You're going, in a minute, that's that recruiter. That's that person trying to sell me SEO services. That's that. You start to filter more. So you're helping the customer put a bigger brick wall up.
Yeah.
Social selling, however, is not quick, right? That's the problem. People want instant gratification. I want the salesperson to get hold of that suspect and do it this week. I don't want to hear that in 2 months' time they've got hold of them. Well, my answer is, use a mix of techniques and methodologies, but the answer is, you want to get hold of them though, right? You want to get a conversation at some point, or do you want your person to do lots of activity and never get hold of them? So social selling has its place. It does not replace existing sales skills. It sits at the front of the funnel, but it's a tool, a methodology for helping you get engagement with someone that you otherwise wouldn't. And if you're good at it, you can get to people that other salespeople in your competition do not.
Yeah.
Long answer to a short question.
No, that's fantastic. I could not agree with you more with that. Couldn't have said it better myself. And you're right. I mean, it's interesting because I think when, we do a handful of this for some of our clients when it makes sense, and then they're in a position to accept the realistic expectations of what those efforts mean over an extended period of time. But it really is about, you have to, I mean, we all have filters put up. Like I'm practically to the point where I won't even answer my phone if I don't recognize the number. And you're absolutely right. Hammering people with
Yep.
phone calls over and over again is counterproductive. That's like you said, you're putting up a bigger wall between you and that prospect. And the fact of the matter is, and this is my personal opinion when I'm having conversations with potential clients around social sales, is that it's a volume based game. You have to be good at it, and you have to understand that you're going to get predominantly ignored and you're going to get lots of no's, but there's some yeses in there. And it's all about great messaging. It's all about timing. Like even my LinkedIn inbox, it is noise. There's so much going on there. I ignore it. But every once in a while, somebody writes something really well that jumps off the page for me, and or their timing was just good. I was looking for that, or I've been thinking about that thing. And the fact of the matter is, you don't know. You can't predict that. So it's just the sum of doing all of these things over an extended period of time that's going to build some sort of marketing engine or sales engine for you that's going to produce results over time. So I think that I can totally relate to where you're getting from on that.
But let me give you an example of the biggest problem, mistake I think people make with it.
Yeah.
And tell me, when I do this with audiences, I usually joke, well, put your hands up if you get this, and if you don't, it's going to worry me that I'm the only one they're targeting with this. You get a LinkedIn message which will say they want to connect with you. They see value. I saw you did this. They might do the first bit well, right? Ian, I saw you spoke at this event, or I saw you that blog you wrote, and it was really good. And so there's a little bit of engagement and personalization, and it'd be great to connect with you, just to follow your content. Okay, yeah, looks valid. I'll connect. Then start your little clock. How long before the next message comes, which is, now you've connected, you've just given me permission to give you my sales pitch. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not real world. I encourage people, think about real world, right? This is what you're doing is the equivalent of going to an event in the old world as we knew it, where there's sets, presentations, etc. You're getting your coffee in the morning and there's someone stood next to you and you invoke chat.
Mm-hmm.
And what you here for the seminar? Yeah. How long did you get? Oh my God, did you come on the public? Did you get stuck on the train? There's a bit of niceties, a bit of rapport building. You don't then immediately that they start talking back to you, and you've got a bit of reciprocation, i.e., they've turned towards you a little bit, and they're glad to find someone to talk to because they don't know anyone there. You don't immediately go, anyway, by the way, my name's Ian, and this is what we do, and let me give you my pitch.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't do it. What you might
No.
do is chit chat about it as what are you here to see today? Which sessions are you looking for? And then during the day you might bump into them again, right? Because you've got a bit rapport, and you hunt each other. Oh, it feels familiarity. Chat a bit. At some point in the day, they may say to you, Ian, what are you doing? What's your side? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's progressed a bit, that the rapport is built through a number of engagements, that they've opened the gate. That's what you want to happen on social. For me, the perfect social selling is that you nurture that piece to the point where they ask you what you do. They ask you, Ian, I've had people say, Ian, we've been connected so long. I love your content. What is it you guys do? We should jump on a call at some point just to check if there's any synergy between us. I haven't had to knock a wall down. It doesn't feel rude, but it isn't instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go for the instantaneous, most times, do they not block you? And people say to me, yes. So why do you do it? Why do you do it repeatedly? What? Because your manager tells you you've got to do so many a day, but you're not getting the results.
Yeah.
So
No,
do
it
you want the
doesn't.
result or do you want the activity?
Yeah, it doesn't work for. I mean, we've had situations where we've turned down business because we knew that an organization wasn't ready for it, or they weren't looking at it through the right lens, or that they had unrealistic expectations about dipping their toe into this sort of thing. So you're absolutely right. It's about building relationships, and it's about just, you don't have to sell, be authentic, have a conversation, learn about who it is that you're talking about. And eventually, it's like you said, they'll ask you what you do. It'll naturally get to that point. And you can't let, sales quotas or numbers, dictate your strategy. I mean, you ultimately you have to play within the the sandbox that you're in. There's just certain ways that you need to do things for it to work. And if you don't have the patience and the stamina to do it and see it through, well, then you'd better just kind of stick to your old world ways. But honestly, those are the businesses that are gonna, die. That's the ones that have that patience and are willing to put in the time to do this effectively. So on that note, so it's kind of like a two-part question or one question asked in two different ways. Who's your ideal client, right? Who's the ideal client that you work with, and where do they need to be at, or how do you ensure that they're actually ready for this sort of thing?
Yeah, so right now in the role I'm in, the ideal client is a mid-market, not an enterprise customer, with a sales team, perhaps 10 to 50 people. We're going to move up the scale and we're going to do that, but at the moment, there's such a wide area to go after, and we have a lot of recruitment customers. So I'm picking where do we need to focus, because you can't boil the ocean. I remember an old boss of mine always said to me, hey, the one thing I always remember he said was, don't boil the ocean. Pick where you're going to play the battle and where you can win most, and go there, because there's plenty of it out there. Don't go scattergun. And I'm using LinkedIn, right? I'm using LinkedIn Navigator to filter down, to look at the scale, and to target what is my profile target audience. But what I'm not then doing is going, you should talk to me, you should talk to me, you should talk to me. It's partly creating good content, making sure that content gets in front of them as well, and nurturing it, and nurture based. So if you identify, pick a number for different people listening. If you identify, look, here's 2,000 key target people in my patch, my region, my vertical, whatever it be, start nurturing that with them, start connecting, make connections, see what connections you've got in your internal network that are connected with them. Do your homework, because often there's Joanne Black wrote a book, No More Cold Calling, and people think, oh, well, you just don't. It's not about not doing cold calling. It's about making it a warm call through having information that it doesn't feel like a cold call. It is really, but you've found a way to get that interaction that doesn't feel like a salesman just going, I want to flog you something. Mm-hmm. So it's for me, it's about targeting who you want to go after, identifying that target audience and what the profile is, the ideal profile. Doesn't mean you can't go outside it, but you've got to have where's your main focus, who is in that target universe, and who do they listen to, who are their influencers, right? Now that might be an association. For example, in the recruitment sector, there are lots of recruitment associations that they all want to be members of. And great, where's the best place to get your content in front of those people and to get that audience? And people go for this, it's directly, they just go for the direct approach. Well, there's already people that your audience follows. There'll be groups they're in, there'll be Twitter accounts they'll follow, etc., etc., etc. So one of the things I always look for is, how do I get my message to the target audience I've defined through people that they're already listening to? Because they're not listening to me, they don't know me, so I can shout loudly, but they're going to walk by. But if someone they trust and already shares that piece of content, or gives them a voice, or says you should speak to Ian, they're more likely to do it. We all know, right? If you call a friend and say, yeah, can I talk to you? The first thing I did when I joined was contact certain sales leaders who I know I've worked with in the past. And guess what? They all respond to me straight away, even though it's about something new, because I've got a relationship, not rapport. I've got a relationship with them. And I had one respond to me today saying it doesn't fit with us because the decision's in the US, but here's why it's not. But I hope you didn't mind me reaching out. No problem at all. You're doing the right thing. I'd expect you to do that. But I'm already past the point of I'm just another one knocking on the door. It's how do you get to that? Well, how do you come through the back door? Most salesmen try and knock on the front door. I want the neighbor to go and knock on the back door with me beside him going, you should talk to this guy. You shortcut the process and it works. It's referral selling, right? In whatever way it is, but it's changed slightly today in that we all have these wondrous tools where you can identify your way in. And let me give you something on social selling, a phrase that I came up with a number of years ago. You want to be Sherlock, not Lestrade. What I mean by this, if you've read Sherlock Holmes, Lestrade will come into a murder scene, Lestrade of Scotland Yard,
Mm-hmm.
and he will look at what's there and he will make a decision. This is what happened and who did it. Sherlock Holmes will invariably turn up a few minutes later and surmise the room and say, nah, totally different story. And here's 20 things you didn't spot. But they were all there for you to spot, Lestrade, but you didn't. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
spot them and correlate them to the facts. In social selling, you can do the same, right? And I often challenge people to do this. When I train with slide material, I will show them, here's an example. Here's a profile. Tell me what's on that profile that's going to help you as a sales individual. You can all see the same thing. And I can do this with a room full of people, 50, 100 people, and often not one of them will spot it
Yeah.
until I click and it highlights the particular bit that's on the screen still. And suddenly they all go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do now I've highlighted that? And suddenly, bang, all the salespeople know exactly what to do. You're blind to it. The clues are usually there in the information if you read it. And it's not just reading their headline, it's who are they connected to that you're connected to? Who do they follow? What groups are they members of? What
Mm-hmm.
content do they share and whose content? Where did they work before? Because you may know someone who isn't connected to them, right? But you may say, oh my God, Sue used to work at that company who I know. He was there 8 years. I bet he blooming knew her. But if they're not connected, which not everyone connects to everyone they ever work with, then oh yeah, I knew him, but they weren't connected. The clues are often there. People don't do this. They have a quick look at the profile and they just want to get going and plow in,
Yeah.
and they don't get the outcome they want.
Yeah. You kind of started to answer this question that I wanted to ask, but I kind of want you to kind of expand on it a bit more. A lot of, and I remember when I was at a previous agency, in one of my main responsibilities was managing a social sales team for Microsoft. And a big part of what we did was basically training and educating salespeople on how to leverage social media as part of their sales responsibilities, about what they would do on a day-to-day basis. And much of, like you said, they had no idea. If I'm from the perspective of a traditional salesperson or somebody that has not gone down this path, in addition to what you've kind of already talked about,
Yep.
research,
Yep.
Research is definitely one of them. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you would advise, somebody that's coming into this new? Because I would imagine a lot of the reservation is for old school salespeople is like, well, I don't have time for this and I don't want to do this. And this is the way that it's been done. Like, how, from their perspective, how would you help them understand what are they getting themselves into? Like, what is their day? How's their day going to look differently? And how are they going to best prepare themselves to be successful in an environment like this? What are the top 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give someone like that to kind of at least start to position them to understand it and be successful with it?
Sure. So first is it's not an excuse for not selling.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't replace the phone, email, and in the normal world, visits and all the rest of it. Right? Doesn't replace everything else. It is just another tool in your kit bag, and it's a methodology, not a product. Right. So the platforms and products that can help you do this, and there's a breadth of them. As you get more and more into it, you'll find more ways of using clever tools to help you. But it's about having the skill set and a methodology and thinking how you approach this. That's the first thing. First job you do is make sure your profile looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Your personal brand is about, do you come across to your target audience appropriately, professionally? And even down to the photo, everyone talks about your profile photos, but still, how many people get it wrong? And they've got a jokey photo or photo of them at a party, whatever. It's just get it. The photo is the first impression, and first impressions count. We always talk that in sales,
Mm-hmm.
and people make micro decisions as a human. They do. You can't help it, right? And on
Yeah.
social, it's like the MTV generation on steroids. You scroll through, everyone's looking at things really quickly.
Yeah.
What you want is to be noticed, firstly, by a bit of content or a message you've sent. You want someone to notice you in a positive fashion. And if they invariably do, they will look at your profile. If you're going to have a call on a video call with 5 people. Today, it's even more heightened because they're sat in front of a PC all day. Because where are they going? They're not having meetings.
Yeah.
We're all sat at home, so there's much more likelihood just before they jump on the call with you, even during the call with you, they're not on a phone. Invariably they're on a video call. They could have your profile open. In the real world we used to know, people would have sat in front of you in a meeting or would have been on a phone call in between meetings, busy and might have intended to think about, but they didn't even think about looking you up. Now they will, because it's so easy. I could do it while I'm talking to you right now, and you wouldn't even know it with the camera on, because I could got another screen, and you think I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the world we're in. So make sure your profile looks good. Plagiarize what other people do. By all means, take a look at my profile afterwards. I'm always honing it. I'm plagiarizing what I see other people do. I'm always looking at it and nurturing it. It's not just about buying the plant and sticking it on your desk. It's about watering it as well. You've
Mm-hmm.
got your profile for free. Now keep tuning it. Too many people set it up 5 years ago and they've never touched it since. And the platforms have moved on where you can do neater things and make it. And I'd look at it all the time, and I see something someone's done. Oh, that's neat. There's nothing wrong with plagiarizing and saying, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." I'll do that. My view is always to make it better and better and better. How do I make my profile stand out and in a professional manner and make myself look credible? That if anyone's going to engage with me, sees a post I've made or a comment on their post, and they click back to me, what's there to make them think at least I'd engage with this guy? As professional, he's got credibility, and that's down to whether you're a junior salesperson, an inside salesperson, or a senior person. It doesn't matter, right? You're all got the same access to the same platform. The only thing that's different is your job title. It's how you use that platform. So spend time getting it right. The number of people I click on and they've got links, the links you can share in there, for example, are to a company they worked at 5 years ago. It's attention to detail. Well, that takes 10 seconds to change. You've not even noticed it yourself. I want people to come and I want to see that if I've engaged with someone's content or with their tweet, I've retweeted it or I've liked it or I've put a comment on there, the perfect for me is to notice that they've come back or they've liked a bit of my content or they've followed me. And I've had many people over the years where I've used these methodologies to nurture engaging with them, where they've then followed me back. They've then shared a piece of my content, right? You're getting there now because they've chosen to do that, right? You push content their way, they might see it or you can tag them in, but they didn't make the choice, you did. That's your sales agenda. The minute they engage back, they're starting to open that door up. They're starting to feel that if they follow you back, they've already told you, I see value in following your content
Yeah.
because I've chosen
No, I
to do
love
it.
it.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from the one mentor I felt I ever had in my life, and he said it was a really, really brief phrase: "Everything speaks." He said everything speaks, everything matters, and your picture, how you talk about yourself, everything tells a story. And you're absolutely right. People sometimes you don't even. It's down to the point, down to the effect of where even when you're running Facebook ads or you're running A/B tests, you know, one little color or this photo had 2 people and this one had 3. People don't even realize sometimes what influences the decisions that they make, and the littlest things can all influence that. So you definitely want to look through a lens of, am I presenting myself the way that I want to be, and that is authentic and is going to, position me as whatever it is that I need to do to influence those that I want to do what it is that I want them to do. So I absolutely love that. That's I couldn't agree more with that. So super interesting stuff around social selling. One of the questions I always ask the guests that I have on out of selfish reasons is, what's a piece of technology, a book, something you've read, an article, a blog? What's something that stands out over the past couple weeks that you just can't get enough of, or has made a meaningful difference or impact in your life in some way?
So I'm purely going to pick, and I've just reached to the shelf behind me. You know, and it's a very valid question because my opinion is I've been in sales and sales leadership a long time, and I always say you've got to continue to learn and adapt,
Mm-hmm.
because the people around you and the environment is changing. This year has highlighted that, right? Because we've all had a major shift and change. And I learned from the young salespeople that work for me who've been doing sales for a year. I always say to them, look, I've just been doing it longer, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
have more experience, but you've had different experiences. You will come up with things that maybe I haven't thought of, because you've got a clean, fresh look, and you've been through a different journey than I've been through, so I can learn from you. But I'm always looking at new books and stuff, and the new one I've got, Key Person of Influence, by Daniel Priestley, and I've started reading that. And whilst I do a lot on personal branding and all this stuff, there's always nuggets of simple things you go, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or it validates something that you are doing, but you're not sure to keep doing it. So that's the latest one I'm reading. The other good one to read is Social Selling by Tim Hughes. Tim's become a friend of mine over the years, and I knew him just as he was launching that book, and that's another good read. And it's not complex. It bangs into your head the simplicity of what this is about. So those would be two I'd recommend to your listeners.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's great. Anything that I didn't ask, or anything that you wanted to expand on that you think might be helpful for the audience to hear based on what we've kind of talked through today?
Sure. So one I'll give you, usually what I say is, look, come and have a look at my profiles. And I'm not professing to be perfect. I'm still learning. I've got an opinion because I've just done this for a long time. And I've self-taught this stuff before it had all the labels of personal branding and social selling. Because as a sales leader, I was just looking to, how do I remain successful? How do I face up to the challenges that every sales leader I speak to says, well, we don't get enough leads, and we're trying, and it's harder to get hold of a customer, prospect, and all that stuff. I was having the same thing. So I was trying to constantly look at what can I do different? Because doing the same old isn't getting the results it used to. So I need to change some things. And if you want to come and look at my profiles, here's an interesting personal branding hint. Go to ianmoyse.co.uk or ianmoyse.cloud. And all you're going to end up at is my LinkedIn and my Twitter profile. But what I haven't just done is said, go to LinkedIn, search for name. Because imagine my name was John Smith.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one. My name happens to shortlist down quite quickly, but all I've done is register a domain, a few dollars a year, easy to do, go and check, and then I've just pointed it at the social. So I've got that for all my social profiles, by the way. Just again, that I can put in a URL or give to someone, ianmoyse.co.uk. Really easy to do. You'll probably remember that, because all you got to do is remember the name of who you spoke to and go, oh yeah. And you'll find my profile.
No,
and
that's
it's
a great
another
point. Yeah.
micro thing of, that's a bit professional.
Yeah.
To your point, I'm looking for micro pieces. There's no one big epiphany I can advise anyone on social media to do. Here's one big thing. It's 100 small things that all take you a few minutes and are either free or take you a few bucks here and there.
No, I love that. Because as a marketer and a public speaker, like, I have my own website. There's a reason to have that. But for a lot of salespeople, they probably, that's probably overkill. They don't need their own website. So that's a great point. If you're listening to this and you're in, like, buy your name. It's probably taken if you have a common name, but some variation of it. Get a domain name. They're like $8-9 a year. And as you said, point it to your LinkedIn profile and make it that much easier for people to find you. So, fantastic tip. I love that. So awesome. Well, I really thankful to have you on the show. I love great insight. I could not agree more with the depth of advice and context around social selling. Super great stuff. Where can people, I know you kind of mentioned it, but again, where can people find you?
Yeah, beat you to that one.
Learn more?
Yeah, ianmoyse.co.uk, LinkedIn, and ianmoyse.cloud on Twitter. I share a lot of content, write blogs around stuff we're talking about, and sales matters, and share a lot of content, because I follow a lot of good people. So take a look at the content I share and the people I follow. Right, there's a lot of good information out there that in the world we're in is free. You've just got to make the choice to digest it.
Awesome. Well, Ian, thank you so much for being on the show. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that does it for this week's episode of Socialistics. If you're listening, you know the drill. Download, subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends, all that good stuff. Appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next week with another episode of the Socialistics Podcast.